future while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, relationships to the land. I also acknowledge that Lethbridge is home to the Métis Nation of the Alberta Region 3. We are grateful to be able to come together here as we celebrate multiculturalism and also talk about the racism that some people living in this community experience. To begin this afternoon, I am honored to welcome Travis, Plaited Hair, to say a few words and open the afternoon in a good way with a Blackfoot prayer.
Okay, ni tsu ko. Okay. So na go ka akayang sin ni ma. Ikon na timtim kwa ka tis ko. O giksu ka pian ka kanis ka no ba ka. Ikako o tapi matapiwa. No tsakh ko. Kunai sinos. Kiga atimu iskan kine kits takatu. Tikamutas. O tikatini taka nuka muksa ka kidaka kakatimu iskatumuks. Gidago chika. O nakatani nakakati na chi poise. Mara kisami poise pa. O gidak sama api poya chika katapia. Yokan istuka api kichi poise ni stama tapa. Soat matapi stas sinem sakai si kaina. Good morning or good afternoon, whatever it is. Welcome. I did my opening in my native tongue, which is the Blackfoot language, which is the first language of this territory. I welcome you all to Blackfoot territory. And I want to remind you that Blackfoots matter too. Nah, just kidding. I know over the news and everything, it's been kind of not a good term to use, but I don't know why, but in our culture, all lives matter. Human beings, from the ants running around on the ground to the birds flying in the sky, and all of us. We are, number one, all human beings. And we all have a responsibility to take care of yourself, number one, and to take care of those around you. And I think this movement has really opened up our conscience around the world. I've listened to world leaders. I've listened to my neighbor. I've listened to youth, elders. There seems to be a real positive vibe going. And sometimes it takes a tragedy, takes something to motivate people. So I'm really proud of all of you here today. In our language, we always hear us say, "Ikakima." That's what we tell each other. No matter how tough it gets, "Ikakima," try hard, persevere. Those are the words that our elders tell us. I've lived and worked in Lethbridge for a number of years, and I consider Lethbridge my home. I raised two of my boys here. My grandsons were born and raised in Calgary, but they all live with me in old agency now. When they found out there wasn't a 7-Eleven, they hightailed it out of there. But they're getting used to it. But I'm very proud of Lethbridge. We've been through a lot of rough times in our relationships over the years. But our elders also tell us not to dwell on the past. The only thing you have control of is the next second that's coming ahead. What's done is done. Leave it. So I encourage you to to do that. I didn't really know what to say coming here, but we're also taught to stay positive. And sometimes that's really hard when you watch the news and you see the things that are happening. And you see the things that are happening to our relatives here, not only in Lethbridge, but in other parts. But you gotta think positive. And I'm always the first to compliment the city of Lethbridge and its leadership in the work that they do. There's a lot of our people that do a lot of work too. So we have to keep working hard. And I want to commend Evans, is it? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. This is a really awesome thing you're doing, and I want to support you in that. So I could go on and on and on, but we have a lot of awesome speakers that are going to be coming up. So I'm going to open it up with a traditional Blackfoot prayer. It's about 4 hours long, so if you want to get an ice cream, go ahead. Ayo napi natus. Ayo kukumikis. Ayo pisoati partipis. Ayo tsakum. Ayo pai. Ayo patspistana ka kita pens kita ka ki. Anaktis koika. Ogin ko tatus pamusa ka kanaka utapis na ki no sikokotuki. Kanami anisi Aam치 naappiikko atsokaatsi tai tassaappiit naqaappaasukitsim statuumiaqaaken qaaki nitaatsuupuummitsi aayo kimmaatu saama sitappiaqaaki aamu nuqsukitsim statuuppi muitti aamutsi qaaki tassaapassi kimmaatuusak iksukitsim statu kutisaaqannike kunaasuka ogiraaga qattaapooqamanismoaqaaki uutappiissi Annika kinuktistinut binana nikitsis. Akso maiko, sakumat nakumat umutsaakatu, sakisistunaapas, sakistapis. Itsaasukinakitsa kaappas kimiakanninuktaatikamuta. Akun kuuni. Kikimmaatu sannakaakini tiskinnaa no kitaapi tassaapiyakaaki. Annistakaakumhkuyiista. Anna kastin maatsa, kana kumskitapi, anna kakipitaaki, anna kaapuutaawak, anna kaapuutti. Kaneipu, maatit stiipaa tässä. Kimmaatuus, kipitaa sanni kamutaani. Oogitsta pahtaa kuupatkaaki, muukuantsin, eetskin aajitsak, läägatsi taamaan muutu, kitummaapsi. Aatsemuis kanneen kiitsistä pippiksa. Nako kena kamutsi benanaka itapkups kaka it's nichi stickets connect anaka tus na itami tekilka so it's gates to na ani say na kan stop pa kaman sa mga kanaka kimutap ginapios na kagamutani ka kastawatsi and thank you very much. Hey.
Next, I would like to acknowledge and thank the dignitaries who are here today, and especially thank Honorable Rachel Harder, MP, for her office's participation in planning this day and supporting the event with water for the attendees. I also recognize Nathan Newdorf, MLA for the Lethbridge East, and Shannon Phillips, MLA for the Lethbridge West. This event is happening with the support from Mayor Chris Spearman, and for their assistance in planning this day, I would like to thank Councillors Belinda Croson, Jeff Kaufman, and especially Councillor Mark Campbell for arranging media opportunities to promote this event. If there are any other members of the City Council here, please raise your hand so we can acknowledge you as well. I'd like to remind everyone that we are gathered during this COVID-19 pandemic, so please ensure to wear your mask over your mouth and nose and keep 6 feet apart from each other unless you're here of members of the same household. Today's event is meant to bring the community together to acknowledge and address racism towards the Black community, the Indigenous community, and other persons of color. Whether you are First Peoples of this land, a newcomer to Canada, or born here, people who are not white experience systematic and structural racism every day, and it is way past the time to do more than just rally and march about it. Today's event is meant to be the start of a conversation with those who are in positions of power and privilege to acknowledge it and take the biases, stereotypes, assumptions, and racism and discrimination that exists. The conversation must include discussions on human rights, unity, and justice. It must include discussions on the roles and responsibilities of those in positions of power and privilege to ensure they are listening and making space for those affected by racism and discrimination, and making the changes that are needed to create a community where everyone feels safe and can fully participate in all the good things Lethbridge has to offer. Thank you. We'll now move on to some comments of the guests. First, I would like to invite Honorable Rachel Harder to speak.
He was from Willowdale, a suburb of Toronto, the fifth of 7 children born to Jamaican immigrants. His father, a janitor, his mom, stay at home. She looked after the 7 children. From a young age, he was filled with passion, skill, determination, grit, a dream. He was born on the frozen ponds of his neighborhood, playing with a hockey stick from the age of 2, dreaming of the big leagues. With his left-handed shot, he developed tremendous skill and showed extraordinary promise. He played pro hockey throughout the 1940s and 50s. The Toronto Maple Leafs and the New York Rangers both took an interest in drafting this young hockey star. But neither had the foresight or the courage to say yes, to bring him on board. The flame of his NHL dream was slowly extinguished until it was no more. You see, as a Black man, the color of his skin prevented him from being brought onto the team. His skill, phenomenal. His determination, unparalleled. But the color of his skin was the thing that held him back. Not because of his own doing, but because of the doing of others. The Maple Leafs owner at the time, Harold Ballard, he once remarked to this young man, "You were born 25 years too soon." But the talented hockey star pushed back and disagreed. He said, "No, the powers that be are not yet ready for me." Herb Carnegie is the man of whom I speak. He is often referred to as the best Black hockey player to never play in the NHL. Fortunately, his story doesn't end there. Carnegie went on to inspire and empower hundreds of young men to pursue their dreams in hockey. 4 years later, after he was refused a signing opportunity, the first Black NHL hockey player came on board and wowed the world. Carnegie founded one of the first hockey schools in Canada, the Future Aces Hockey School, and subsequently created a charity where hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars were raised and put forward for school scholarships. He has been inducted into 13 sports halls of fame, 9 of them for his various roles in hockey. He's been awarded 8 medals, one of them being the Order of Canada, and he's been given dozens of honorary degrees and other awards throughout the country. Today, we are gathered here because a young man with a dream, a vision, passion, determination, and skill, Evan, gathered us. He gathered us in the name of diversity. He gathered us in the name of standing against racism and discrimination. He gathered us in the name of equality. Evan is also a skilled hockey player for the Pronghorns. And he is given that opportunity because those that have gone before him. But the reality is that although we've made significant headway, we still have a long ways to go. And it takes each and every one of us to play our part. It takes each and every one of us to step back, to take a close look, to be honest, and to say, where are the parts of us that are perhaps discriminatory, unfair, unkind? Where are the biases deep within, and how do they impact our conduct towards others? Together, we are gathered here with good hearts, good intentions, and an opportunity to pursue a vibrant future. Together, we have the chance to reframe this great nation that we call Canada, that we call home. Together, I believe that we are the answer to bringing a stop to racism and discrimination, and to celebrating one of Canada's greatest strengths, our diversity. Thank you so much for coming and being a part of the solution together.
Thanks, Rachel. Next, we'll hear from MLA Nathan Newborn.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to start by thanking Evan Wardley and the One Community Together for the invitation to speak at this important event today. And I would also like to thank our First Nations for sharing their land with us. Lethbridge is lucky to have an organization as dedicated and involved in the promotion of multiculturalism as One Community Together. Being Canadians, multiculturalism and pluralism are facts of life for us. The vibrancy of our backgrounds has been a large part of our success as a country, a province, and as a city here in Lethbridge. However, not all of our people have enjoyed fair and just treatment. We in Canada often see racism as an American issue, but it is not. Unfortunately, racism and racial bias have been an ugly part of our nation's history, which we cannot and should not ignore. I'm proud to be a part of a team of MLAs who supports the government's ongoing work to make Alberta a more welcoming, fair, and just place to live, regardless of race, culture, faith, or background. In 2019, our government helped Albertans with foreign qualifications gain dignified employment that they are qualified for by passing the Fair Registrations Practices Act. This law is helping immigrants to work in the field that they've already been trained in. Another important step that our government was launching is a new grant stream, the Multiculturalism, Indigenous, and Inclusion Grant Program. This grant stream replaced the previous anti-racism community grant and expanded the mandate to be able to better serve our province's needs. This expanded grant stream continues to support anti-racism and multicultural work within our province. I'm also proud to support the first government in over 25 years to name a Minister of Multiculturalism, Leela here. She is doing tremendous work to make an impact on racism and discrimination. I know that she and our whole government are dedicated to supporting the vibrancy of Alberta's multiculturalism. Thank you, everyone here, for the work that you do to make our province a better place for all Albertans. We all have a part to play in shaping the future we want for ourselves and the generations to come. Let's all use today to reaffirm our dedication to a multicultural Canada, Alberta, and Lethbridge that has a place for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathan. Our next speaker is going to be MLA Shannon Phillips.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Evan. Thank you for working hard and learning those skills of citizenship that we were just talking about over at the Multicultural Center. It is hard work to bring together an event like this. There's a lot of planning and a lot of effort, and I want to give a shout out to Evan for doing all of that. And I want to give a special recognition to the elders who have come here today to be with us and to open this up with a prayer to remind us that we are on the territory of the Blackfoot people, the Siksika and the Tatapi. Thank you, Travis, and to everyone else for coming here today, for reminding us. Reminder, too, that we are also on the territory of the Métis people of Region 3, who have a growing membership as well here in southern Alberta, and a growing cultural presence that is very, very important to who we are. In fact, I'm looking out at this crowd and I see a number of people who are doing the work to remind us of who we are. And that's what's most important on days like Multiculturalism Day or International Day of the Refugee, or June 21st, which was Canada's Indigenous Celebration Day, on Summer Solstice Day. These are the people in our communities that are here doing the work, creating vibrant culture, creating art, creating music, creating community, educating our children, bringing us up to understand the full breadth of our humanity and the full understanding of who we are as Canada. This is a journey that we are on. It is not always easy, and there are many, many challenges, and it is disingenuous and wrong to say that our struggles are over. They're happening today, they're happening this week. We saw them in the headlines. We've seen them for the last couple of months. We've seen them for the last generation. It is our job to commit to action every day to fix it. And that is what people are doing in this community. And when I look out, that's who I see. So all of you who are in the community doing your work, I want you to call on me as one of your representatives to help me pitch in wherever I can. Show me where I can be helpful and useful. Show me what programs that maybe we used to have that we don't have anymore that you want back. Show me forward-looking ways to understand justice, the justice system, the role of law enforcement, the role of community supports, all of it. I want to know where you're at. I want to know what you're working on. I'm not going to tell you all the things that we did while we were in government. You can look it up. You got Google. I want to know what is important to you now. So reach out to my office, Lethbridge.West at Assembly. You can find me on the internet in good ways and bad. And I want to work with you. And I want to do whatever I can to signal boost the grassroots efforts that are happening in this community, whether it's on anti-racism efforts, multiculturalism, work with various newcomers to Canada, the LGBT community for whom we would be celebrating today if it wasn't for coronavirus. I'm here for you. Reach out to me anytime. Thank you for everything that you do.
Shannon. Next, I'll invite Councillor Mark Campbell from the Lethbridge City Council.
Okay, and first off, Mayor Spearman sends his regrets. He is attending a family birthday celebration. It is great to be here on his behalf, especially on Multiculturalism Day. We were asked to wear clothing that represents our culture. Our culture. I'm Scottish, but I don't own a kilt. I see there's one there. I wanted to borrow it, but oh well. In the meantime, get your mufflers from Maxim Muffler and Break. Okay, that's all I got. You know, I think about growing up in my life in Lethbridge and watching the social unrest of the 60s on TV, and I remember thinking, why is everybody so angry? Not really understanding the racial inequality that existed. And I wouldn't think about it much because I personally wasn't affected. And the older I got, the more I learned about the struggles that races have had over the years, but I still have been really not truly impacted. The events of the past month has really brought unprecedented awareness to us all, and I thank Evan Wardley for his efforts today to bring this city together, and what a wonderful, diverse group of people that we have here. Let me echo what Mayor Spearman said recently. Racism has no place in our city. We need to be a welcoming city to all people who come here looking for opportunities for themselves and for their children. We should all have the courage to each examine our own selves, examine our own history and the history of the city of Lethbridge. We just can't speak about wanting to change, and we can't stay silent. We must work together for change, unity, and inclusion. We must always treat all people with respect, and we must say no to racism. We acknowledge it is part of our past. Let's work together to make sure it is not part of our future. As the great Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." And today, among friends, we are not silent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell, and once again, thank you for your kind support of this event. We are fortunate to have also worked on the plans for the event with Mr. Victor Wutor, President of the Southern Alberta Ethnic Association, so I would like to invite him up now to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Lethbridge. Thank you. I bring you greetings from the Southern Alberta Ethnic Association. The Southern Alberta Ethnic Association, that's the SEA for short, we celebrate diversity because that is the strength of this beautiful country we call Canada. At the Southern Alberta Ethnic Association, we see no color. We believe that there's so much strength in diversity and that Canada is the beacon of hope for the rest of the world because of the way we have handled diversity. But besides that, we still have work to do. That is something you and I have to agree on, that is still work to do. It is not all rosy, and if it hasn't happened to you, you may not appreciate it. But racism is a problem we have in this city and in this country. I've heard people say that all lives matter. That is true. Every life matters. Discrimination is not acceptable. But the fact of the matter is that the BLM movement does not seek to denigrate the worth of any other ethnic society or ethnic group. The Black Lives Matter movement does not seek to say that Black lives are more important than any other life. What it seeks to do is to seek justice for everyone, equality. The Southern Alberta Ethnic Association works to create an environment where every living person in this city is appreciated, respected, and valued, and given a fair chance, regardless of the color of his or her skin. That is what the SEA stands for. The Black Lives Matter movement should not be underestimated. It seeks to address a specific problem, the problem of systemic racism and injustice against Black people and Black communities. At the end of the day, what the Black Lives Matter movement seeks to do is to seek equality for everyone. Black, white, red, whatever you want to say. Do not think that this is just mincemeat. Do not try to denigrate it. We have different types of cancers, but October is a breast cancer awareness month. Does that denigrate or belittle the other cancers we have? No, it does not. It only seeks to address a particular problem. The time for people passing comments and just standing by is over. My friends, we need to stand up to racism. We need to stand up against discrimination in any form against anybody. We can no longer sit on Facebook and say we stand with you. No, you don't stand with us. That is not what is needed. We need to stand up and fight for it. I'll tell you something. When something goes wrong, a crime is committed in this city, and the person involved happens to be someone of color, most of the words you hear are deport him. That's the common thing you hear, deport him.
But you lose sight of the fact that that person may have been born in Canada. He knows no other place than Canada, and this is his home. But when a Caucasian commits the same crime, nobody says deport him because he's white enough to be Canadian, but the black man is not white enough to be a Canadian. There are things we say which we never think about it carefully. It is time for us to begin to learn, unlearn, and listen. I've been in this city for nearly 14 years. My kids were born here. But for the rest of my life in this city, I know I'll have to keep answering this question, where do you come from? You ask me, I am from Lethbridge. The next question comes from, I mean, where do you originally come from? I'm from Lethbridge. There you go, where do your parents come from? Please. My kids were born here. They are as Canadian as you can think about. They can't even eat the food that I eat. And you're asking them where they're coming from. They are Canadians. We lose sight of the fact that most of us here came from somewhere. And the fact that your forefathers arrived 100 years ago does not make you more Canadian than my children who were born in this country. We are a country of immigrants. Let's celebrate that and give respect to the natives of the land. Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, there is work to be done, and it is time for you and I to make sure that our history of racism does not become part of the future of this beautiful country we call Canada. Thank you very much.
Victor, that was awesome. Our final speaker is Pastor Daniel Zapula, who has also assisted with planning this event. I would like to invite him up now to say some closing words.
Good morning. My name is Daniel, and I'm really glad and excited to be here together with everyone. Evan, well done. Thank you. We are proud of you. Thank you. And I want to say thank you to all the COP that came here and organized and facilitated this event. I am a privileged individual. I have a beautiful wife and 3 children. I married a lady from not far from here, and she's as white as they come. And I am as black as they come. My beautiful children are both white and black. We have a united nation in our home. We are privileged to be a part of a community of opportunity. I'm privileged. I have to admit that. I'm privileged as a brother, and I can say many things, but I'm privileged to be here in this community and to stand together with brothers from all backgrounds, people who grew up here, First Nation, and I am truly, truly glad to see the effort that this city is making. I realize that my role here is to close with a word of prayer, and I want to just recognize how much sometimes our brain exaggerates our differences more than it should. We are all human beings, and we all bleed red. We live under one sky that is a tent over us all. We are one family. Let us not just kid ourselves. We are one family. And I just thank you. I think the word of Ecclesiastes reminds us of this. He said there is a time for everything. There is a time to cry, a time to be consoled, and a time to keep silent, and a time to speak. There is just something about this phrase, a time to keep silent and a time to speak. Speaking is a powerful instrument on earth. With speech, we can heal. And with our speech, we can offend. With our speech, we can bless. With our speech, we can curse. With our speech, we can bring about peace. And with our speech, we can also stir up the community and dissension. With our speech, we can unite. With our speech, we can also use to create genocide. Our speech as human beings are very powerful. And we must grow in wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to listen, when to use our words and when not to. Sometimes our speaking helps. Sometimes our speaking hurts. Sometimes our silence manifests the worst form of violence. A great German theologian wrote the following words. He says this: "First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." You see, sometimes our silence is an intentional numbness, and it causes death. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for what is right. A woman dies when she refuses to stand up for justice. A young lad dies when he or she refuses to take a stand for that which is true and noble. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about lives and issues that matter. I am here because somebody rescued me. I am here because somebody gave me a chance. That person refused to not be silent, and they redeemed me from my own personal slavery. Sometimes we must speak out, so do speak out. Don't just stand there. Do something, say something. And sometimes we have to just stand there. Just say, you have nothing to say but to just be present. The temptation to just hide is very high, but the call to our common humanity is stronger. We must all bear witness to the truth. We must all refuse to lower our voices when we should raise our voices. We must resist the temptation to remain silent when we are called and commissioned and given opportunity to speak up. It's time to speak. It's time to speak up. And we can speak by standing together for our togetherness. And Lethbridge, I believe we can do this. I believe a good work has begun. You see, I asked a couple of lawyers, I say, can you point to me any unjust laws that we can go and correct? If there is any unjust law in the books of Canada, I want to lead a whole team of people who are going to march from here to Ottawa and change it. They say there is none. But I said, why is it we are still witnessing so much injustice? It's because we have not personalized it. You see, the time to speak is now. And you spoke today by being present. You spoke today by coming here. You're not the people we are preaching to. You have already been and lived the change you wanted to see. And I thank you for doing that and joining Evan and the rest of us in this moment. And so let me end with a prayer by Saint Francis. It goes like this: Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Thank you. God bless you.
My name is Evan Wardley. I'd like to start out by thanking all of you for meeting with me today. As you're all aware, like every country around the world, racism is alive and well in Canada. This is why I feel it is so important to surround ourselves with passionate and positive people such as yourselves who want to be the drivers of change by supporting this cause in a positive manner. I believe as a whole, we all want to be seen as a unified community and not divided by our lack of knowledge nor identified by the color of our skin. Therefore, I feel that our main goal should be educating those who may not realize it when they are being racist. We can do this by talking with them so that they can begin to recognize and overcome their own biases. As we have learned from past experience, it is not proactive to shun nor alienate people. This is about teaching individuals the importance of acceptance and unification so they can pass these beliefs on to the future generation. We cannot ignore the past, but we cannot make it our main focus. We must look forward and see how great our future can be if we unite together as one. So thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it. Thank you everyone who spoke today. You guys did an amazing job. I ask that you continue to just be a voice for everybody in the Lethbridge community. Again, this isn't about me. This isn't about people who experience it. It's about what the Lethbridge community can do to come together to fix this problem. Thank you. Now I'd like Mark and Buck, drummers, to come up.